All right, scrimmage one in the books from last Friday. We'll speak to that a little bit. I think anytime as a head coach, you want to see it be a little bit of give and take, and it was that. It wasn't a one-sided affair. Really good opportunity for so many young players to be out in a more game-like scenario where the coaches aren't out there, the plays aren't scripted, the situations aren't scripted. We got about 80 plays in, so most of our guys are able to walk away with 30 to 40 reps somewhere in there. And I think some of the highlights, I thought offensively ran the ball pretty consistently without a big run really in the mix. And that tells you that it was Jared White, Colson Kuhn, the two backs that ran the football. They both did a good job. And then obviously the offensive line and tight ends have a piece to that. Quarterback wise, I thought between Chance Wilson and Patrick Duchesne, both guys did some good things, and they also did some things that would have, what you'd expect at this time. They're still very much in development. A couple down the field passes, of which I think they each hit one. One was a really good catch by Jacob Trimble, and the other one was a catch and run by Jordan Reed. So I think progress. I think for those guys in particular, Chance and Patrick, and then I think the one thing on defense, while giving up a little bit on the run side, there weren't a lot of big plays. It was probably those two passes in particular, but we got some pressure on the quarterback. So I think looking at our defensive end position, Kenny Iden, I know had a couple, probably 2-3 pressures. Zach Cruz, Seth Brock. Seth's a young player out of Boise. He was a true freshman this year, and I think we really liked the fall that he had on the scout team. But that's certainly translated to his time now trying to make his way. So all in all, I think it's the first scrimmage. It is that next benchmark as far as you going through the spring ball. We're 3 weeks in now, 2 weeks left, and this is a critical week because we turn around and go again today here on Monday. We'll go again middle of the week, and then we'll have probably a bigger scrimmage as far as plays go. It's coming Saturday, so you really want to see what that progress looks like from that first one to the second one. So this week, and being able to correct mistakes, build off of successes is such a big part of what will go on this week. So my hope is next week this time. My takeaway is that, hey, we continue to make progress. We still have this back and forth affair between the offense and defense. Right now with where we're at special teams wise, we haven't talked special teams wise. Obviously, we feel good about the Miles had kicked into football. Our future punter, probably kickoff guy, and Colby Froecker is still in high school, throwing the jab I saw. So he's done all kinds of things this year between basketball and track now, on top of the great football season he has. And Brody Johnson, our long snapper, is still in high school down in Phoenix. So we're, those two pieces, we haven't got a lot of full special teams, but we've done a lot of work, working the individual aspects, the technical aspects. Still having guys compete, but special teams, weren't really a part of our scrimmage on Friday night at all, and probably won't be much of a, from here on out, whether it's coming Saturday or in the spring game.
Were those quarterbacks and running backs you mentioned those were the only ones who participated? Is that right?
2 running backs were, and that's Julius Davis has been practicing. We held him out of the contact portion. He's just fine. We've limited Ontario here and there. He'll be back with us this week. Then the quarterback side, River Warren also went, and River's just behind those guys. I think that's fair to say. I think he was out there and did move the ball a little bit, but I think just noting those other 2 that have been around the program is probably why I just said those 2 guys.
Yeah. And then is Kai Golan, is he the one that's the other specialist that's here?
Kai is with us again. He was with us for a period in fall camp. And where it'll end with him, I do know Kai is certainly improved from where he was in the fall. So that's been good to see.
In terms of the D-line, I guess you mentioned Kenny right there. I guess what do you feel like he brings to this group now that he's been in the program for a while? He's one of the older guys.
Yeah, I think Kenny's always had playmaking ability, so that's continued to improve as his strength, his speed, all those things, his understanding. But I think he's such a a different player as far as his consistency, and I think that's what showed up last fall, and I think you see that even taking another step here, and then I think as a senior now, I think leadership wise, he would have naturally probably deferred to some of those older defensive players, notably Brody in the same position group, but you see guys like Kenny and Paul, maybe in particular on that front stepping up in leadership roles.
Anyone specific on the O-line that stood out during the scrimmage?
Yeah, I think good to have JT back out there. JT's been in and out. He hadn't been out there for the last week, but he scrimmaged. And I thought he ran center a little bit and did some good things. I think the continued development on the inside of Everett Carr and Dylan Rollins, I think is happening. I think between those two guys, they're going to be right in the mix. At the guard positions, obviously Bert Mestel and JT will figure in there as well. So, I think another guy that I've really failed to mention, Tommy Nilsson, who's been in our program, and he's going on year 4 out of Missoula Hellgate. Tommy has been a guy that's been, he's had a lot of bad luck, I guess, as he's gone through his time here, and he's had a good stretch of health now. So I think this is really the first opportunity. I feel like, okay, Tommy's got a chance to really show what he can do, and he's done a good job, and we're working him at the center position as well, and he's capable of playing guard.
Tight end position, how's that competition been going?
Yeah, I think a lot like we thought. We have some depth there. Those guys did catch several intermediate balls the other day, and I think between Schlepp and Provience, those two would lead the pack. Those two have the most experience coming back. And then Rocky Lencioni is right there too. I think as a young player, as a first-year guy, he's had tremendous growth. I think physically for sure. I'm guessing he's put on 20 pounds at least. Thinking back to where he would have been at the end of basketball season last year for the Hawks, and where he's at now. He's worked really hard, has a lot of skill. So I think that's the 3 that I would say are leading that group at this point in time, and ultimately there'll be more to it. And Lubens Valsin has shown really good strides this spring. We have high hopes for Lubens. He was going to be a little bit of a project, having played really receiver and maybe outside linebacker, but it's starting to click for him, and excited for what's in front of him.
How's that fullback H-back position shaping up?
Well, I think it's all one and the same. The way we probably look at it a little bit differently now. Not a dedicated fullback per se. I think we'll do a lot of the same things that we've done, whether it's been with Royan or whether it's Derek Snell, with that group that I mentioned, and some guys may be more capable than others, and I think that'll be a continued work in progress. But I think that group of 4, pretty versatile group in their own right. So what you want to do is ask the guys to do a couple of things maybe that we ask them to do, and I'd say couple, we probably ask our guys to almost play 4 different positions potentially, and then out of the group get the best tandem out there at times. We typically don't play with 3. We might at times, but we play with 2 quite a bit in that tandem, and where they fit. I think we still have to sort some of that out.
And you mentioned Jordan as a receiver at the catch and run. So how was just kind of his first full week as a receiver gone?
I think he showed a real promise, and I spoke to it last week. I think he was all about the move. He was willing to do in some aspect whatever we asked, and I do think a lot of it comes pretty naturally to him. Jordan's a really good basketball player, and there's plenty of overlap with footwork and ball skills that do come into play there. Obviously, being on the other end of the passing game, I think his understanding of what we're looking for as far as depths and angles and those type of things, he's got a fair understanding. So pleased with what it looks like, I guess, a week in, and we'll see how it continues to progress.
This isn't as related to the scrimmage, but I just saw last week you guys fundraised through well, not you specifically as much, but through FanStake, $50,000 for the team in just a couple days. Just how cool is that to see, especially in the off season, kind of you guys get that support?
Yeah, I think FanStakes this separate arm of anything else we're doing. I know it was aligned through the collective. It's obviously more devoted to one person at a time, but I do think it shows that there's a real willingness to support our student athletes, and that's one way to do it. That's one way to do it specifically to a particular athlete. I know a lot of our efforts, we're trying to raise a pool of money and then we can dole out. I know the house settlement is moving along, I suppose, any day now, and we'll have our marching orders a little bit for what it could look like in July. Where we can shift gears in how we're able to support our athletes, I guess. So anything and everything is very much appreciated on from my perspective, and I guess that was definitely one sign of the support we get.